So Winds of Change is here. It's been here for so long, actually, we got a bug fix update out. And while I have seen a decent chunk of discussions around a bunch of the new content, one thing that I think has skipped a lot of people's radars, including mine, is Italy. The actual missions for them are really good. Like, you get some insane buffs to the Italy region. If you aren't a 10k hours EU4 enjoyer that does a very hard world conquest by 1500s for fun, consider a chill campaign as something like Tuscany to Italy, because I'll be honest, the national idea is still kind of stuck. One thing, however, that has been brought to my attention by Art from my Discord, by the way, speaking of my Discord, go join that if you haven't already, I do read that, as you can tell, is this very specific mission here, which gives Italy minus 25% Dev Cost Modifier on Rome. And, well, that's really, really good. Now, before we do get into the rest of the video and show what we're going to do with this information, we have to get some things out of the way. A like on the video would be appreciated if you haven't already, and a subscription would be amazing. You guys have been killing it recently, and we're now insanely close to 10k. But, self-shitting aside, dev efficiency. Before we get into our fun and games, let's make sure we properly explain it. So why do I want to talk about dev efficiency, what I'm calling it, or dev cost modifiers as referred to in the game files? Well, last time I made a video about talking about development cost modifiers, or dev efficiency, whatever you want to call it, a lot of people didn't realize there was a difference between dev cost or dev efficiency, especially in the comments, with a lot of people telling me like, Aristocratic is minus 5 dev costs in their ideas. That's dev cost, not dev efficiency. So to demonstrate it, and so we're all the way on the same page of what's actually going on with dev efficiency and dev cost, I've modded the game where England's first national idea is minus 100% dev cost, while their second is minus 70% dev cost modifier. And I'll show you what I mean with this when we get into the game proper. Right, so here we are, and without any modifiers, if we take a look at London, we can see that the base cost of developing the province is 50 monarch points. That 50 monarch points is then modified by other things. So, for example, the fact it's a capital city, based on our total development, decreases a bit. It's a farmland, so minus 5. But of course, there's already some development on it, 20 to be exact, so that increases it by 36%. Let's say, however, London had a lot more development. So here I've set the base production of London to be 100. That means that, of course, because the development of London is so high, we're going to be paying an extra 178% to develop it. So, if I first take 3 pretty useless ideas within Innovative, so that we can get access to our first 100% dev cost, we can see that despite having access to an extra 100% dev cost, yes, we've decreased this dev cost quite a lot, from 919 to 866, and you can see it in the total cost there, but of course, we're still not exactly deving for free, we're deving for 866. That's the big difference between dev cost, which applies to the second calculation after the base value is calculated, and development efficiency. Now, development efficiency, or dev cost modifier, when we take the 3 more useless ideas from Innovative, as you can see now that 70% dev cost is going to be applying to that base 50%. So as you can see there, that 50% dev cost is being reduced by 70%, which significantly decreases the total dev cost. And if that dev cost goes down to minus 100% from development efficiency, we'll be able to dev from 0, because the 0 multiplied by 178% from development is still going to be 0. And of course, the other 30% that we can get is from technology. As you can see here, you get a development cost modifier, or development efficiency, from technologies here. So if we go and tech up to tech 27, of course I'm going to achieve this with the console, so we can achieve, as you can see, another minus 30%. We've just reduced the base development cost down to 0, meaning that despite all this development here, dev clicks are still going to be costing us 0, despite all the other modifiers there, right? And so we're on the same page here. No innovative ideas? Dev cost goes back up. The moment we take enough ideas to unlock this ability for minus 70% dev cost modifier, we are deving for 0. And this is real dev, we can do it, as you can see. This basically does mean at this point you probably want an auto-clicker for this game. I mean, a surprising amount of things in EU4 are made easier by auto-clickers. For example, sending people money. The unironically best way of sending people money in multiplayer when it's above like 1k is genuinely just offering them a loan and at like 0% interest, and then just for 1 month, and then not paying back the loan. Because sending it through the 25 ducats at a time come late game is really annoying. Anyway, as you can see, you can dev as much as you want at 100% dev cost modifier. And the game can be paused, you're not spending any monarch points, you can go have fun with this as much as you want. Right, this is why dev cost modifier is so much stronger to stack than development cost normally, as when you get it to 100%, you're deving for free. It does not matter. The second development increase from development does not affect it. Okay? Bit of a weird way of doing a guide, but there we go. Now that we've established that, development cost modifier. How can we get it? Well, honestly, it's a very painful thing to get conventionally. For example, even things like missions that normally do have global modifiers tend to be pretty restricted because Paradox for obvious reasons, doesn't want to give it out too much. For example, missions like the Fertile Lands of Pannonia does give us minus 5% local dev cost modifier, but it's on specifically the Carpathia region. And another example of this is, for example, the Chengdu Monument, which at the maximum level does provide 10% local dev cost modifier, but that's on provinces in the area. And unfortunately, this state here doesn't exactly overlap with Carpathia for our modified stack and enjoyment. However, as always, we shouldn't give up hope. There are quite a few sources of dev cost modifier that can be applied globally. A classic example, and one of the first actually, is the inward focus for the Korean government, which gives you access to minus 5% dev cost modifier globally. Now, as you can see, there's not a lot of global dev cost modifier, so it's quite painful to stack it. But when there's a will, there's a way, and this run probably is genuinely one of the most painful things I've stacked. There are probably a couple harder runs to do, but this one's up there, to the point where I'm starting to look at these kind of runs and go, I don't know that even the best EU4 players out there, your Lambdas, your Foreign Warriors, are actually going to be able to do this. Like, we're starting to genuinely reach this, because we're going to have to do a couple release and plays and some pretty awful setup for these. But the EU4 community never fails to disappoint. So anyway, what do you actually need to do to get to minus 100% dev cost modifier with standard setup in EU4? No customations, no cheating, stuff like that. Well, because we're using release and play mechanics, the good news is you can start as anyone you want. So if you're trying this as well yourself, I guess you can go for Austria for an easy early revoke. But it does mean that you have one extra culture flip to do. Although again, you'll be doing quite a few of these, so really up to you. But again, what you want to do is go ahead and form Italy, as you can see here. And once you've done that, we need to go ahead and look at our pretty fancy missions. Again, these things are quite strong. Highlights include some pretty powerful things, like minus 25% local dev cost, unfortunately not local dev cost modifier, on a bunch of your states, as well as 25% goods produced on them. And how about a further 10% local dev cost and 15% goods produced, and even some prosperity growth on the whole of the Italy region, just for the fun of it. As well as some dip rep and get legitimacy. Who also doesn't like getting really strong mercenary buffs just for the fun of it, or trading mercenaries in altogether for 10 land fire damage? Definitely can't complain. But no, of course, we're here for the mission, a real Roman Empire, to go ahead and grab ourselves Eternal Rome. So Rome's going to get ourselves a conditional modifier or roads lead to Rome, given the following effects of minus 25% dev cost modifier. As well as, of course, some power projection for you permanently, but you're not going to be able to keep that. Now, I'm not about to spend half an hour making the Roman Empire against reconsole commands, because you have to annex those with smaller OPMs, so I'm going to make my life a little bit easier with that, of course, and just pop the event. Woo! Glory to Rome. So yeah, the first part of this does literally require you to restore the Roman Empire. And as you can see, if you have 3 stability, minus 25% local dev cost modifier. The issue, of course, is let's say you were to hypothetically release yourself as someone like Naples, and then take over the province. Well, it doesn't go away. You still get to keep the dev cost. Right? There we go. See, with Naples, the monthly has happened, and everything's fine. This does mean that we can get 25% local dev cost modifier, and then release ourselves as another country so that we can go form a different NTAG instead of the Roman Empire. And the country to release ourselves for our first round of releasing, yes, there's multiple release and plays out today, is actually going to be Muscovy, or honestly anyone else who can go ahead and form Russia. Why Russia? Well, this mission here, modernize the state. See, our highest development owned province, which hypothetically could end up being, Rome, is going to gain central modernization at the end of the game, giving us minus 5% dev cost modifier, as well as, a university. Would you look at that? Rome is a central modernization, and all roads do lead to Rome, meaning that we now have a minus 30% dev cost modifier. After we've done with that, though, what we need to go ahead and do now is release and play as Lithuania, and this is where we need to start stacking temporary modifiers now. Oh, have mercy on our soul. So, complete this mission, and the rewards on it for the next 20 years is minus 5% local dev cost modifiers on every province that fulfills the requirements for it. The requirements are going to be have 10 of 25 dev, at least a center of trade, and a bunch of other things. Basically, you're actually going to have to build a marketplace for this one. But yep, pop this on Rome. So now we're at 35. After that, go ahead and form the Hanseatic League for this mission here for minus 5% local dev cost modifier again on Rome. Conveniently, this is also going to make Rome a literal gold mine, which is even more hilarious than ironic, but there we go. Taking us from minus 35 to minus 40% dev cost modifier. After which you need to go ahead and form, and don't laugh, Poland. After which you need to grab an alliance with someone in Scandinavia, so make sure those exist, to get the Polish-Swedish Active Baltic Co-Prosperity for 20 years, giving you some trade efficiency, but most crucially that global dev cost modifier, taking up to minus 45% dev cost modifier. After which you can go ahead and form the Commonwealth, which will unlock this mission here, take Economic Hegemon, which will give you the top 25% year option for -5% Dev Cost Modifier, as well as the Economic Hegemon itself giving you -5% Dev Cost Modifier. After which you're finally done forming things, so you can go ahead and change your primary culture to Korean. And once your primary culture is Korean, you'll be able to unlock this Tier 1 government reform, which will unlock access to these buttons here, which will let you take inward focus for -5% Dev Cost Modifier. And after you've done all that, you'll be sitting at -60% Dev Cost Modifier on Rome. After which, pretty simple stuff. While maintaining Economic Hegemon, take the centralized bureaucracy reform. Bear in mind, you'll need to have less than 50 provinces in Europe. It's 15, goes up to 25, then 35, then 50 by the final age, and you'll be in the final age for this, slight spoilers. So you need to make sure you run an Economic Hegemon. I've done all those things while being under 50 provinces, well, in Europe, or wherever your capital ends up being, for another -5% dev cost. For your final 5%, grab infrastructure ideas, not because it has dev cost modifier, but because you get a pulse event, and those infrastructure ideas will actually let you get this event here, which your capital, which should be Rome, should be able to scope to Rome, so you can invest in the capital area to gain -5% local dev cost modifier for 10 years. And finally, with your -70% dev cost modifier, you can get the final 30% dev cost modifier reduction from technology at AdminTech 27. Meaning that we're back to deving for 0. You know, just pretend London is Rome for this one. I'm, again, not actually going to be bothering to do this all these steps, even with the console. What a journey. Again, at this point, we're starting to hit the point where I don't think this is doable even in vanilla. It's significantly easier to conquer the world like 3 times over, or do what Lambda did, where he did in one faith as, like, for example, Catholic, then flipped Protestant to the convert religion button to do another one faith as Protestant, and so on. So you did like multiple one faith runs in the same run. Like, that sounds easier to do than what are the things I described here, right? So, are any of you actually going to be doing this? No. Is it possible? Yes. And this is why it's beautiful. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.